Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 120. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Friday, Steelers Nation. And the pick is in. And with the 14th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Georgia offensive tackle Broderick Jones, trading up with the New England Patriots from 17 to 14, giving up a fourth-round pick, 120 overall. That is the 10-second recap of what happened on a very busy day number one. Dave, how you doing? And congrats to you on Babe Ruth calling this one with Broderick Jones. You nailed it.
Omar coming. Omar coming, yo. Yeah, what an exciting first round, right? I mean, full of trades and a couple of surprises in there. And you know, as you mentioned, him moving up from 17 to 14 there with the Patriots, and you know that's something that you'd been talking about for quite a while. You know, them potentially moving up, and if they did, it took me a little while to come around to the notion that might be what they ultimately do there. But I think I even said in my mock draft I wouldn't be surprised if they did move up to get one. You know, the last at the bottom rung of those tackles there. I was starting to get a little worried there, especially with the way that first round was shaking out, and the Cardinals, after all, I think did go tackle, right? And after all, and there was a couple more started coming off the board there, and I got to admit about I don't know, pick 11, 12 or something like that. I was starting to think, yeah, that's a couple of strong hurdles that Broderick Jones has to make it over at this point for him to get to 17. But however, as soon as I saw the report come in that they were trading up to 14, I started feeling a little bit better at that point there. Now, obviously, Christian Gonzalez was still on the board. I know a lot of the fan base was hollering for that to happen there, but you know, time and time again, I made sure to put out there and write about it and talk about it. The Steelers went into this draft with just 3 tackles under contract. One of them was LaRaven Clark, and
2.5 tackles. That's kind of what it feels like.
2.5 tackles, and you know, at that point it was easy to kind of, you know, with one of the first couple picks, it had to be tackles. And look, if you did not get Broderick Jones there, you know, Anton Harrison went, you know, later on in the round, right?
Jacksonville,
I believe. And I mean, you're down into the Matthew Bergeron area at that point. So I like the call, and as we've talked a few times, over the years on this podcast, and really most recently, I don't think you can fault a team, whoever the pick is, until obviously way after the fact, for showing conviction to going up and getting a player that they want. And that's what they did here. They identified that they probably had to get ahead of the Jets there. They knew Broderick Jones was a player that they liked and wanted and knew a lot about, knew he's the last of those of that first tackle run, and they went up and got him. So boy, it feels good to finally hit one of these. It's been a couple of years since I've hit a first-round draft pick, but here we are. And good young player in Broderick Jones.
It's pretty crazy to think about that in one way, the Aaron Rodgers trade benefited the Steelers because the Jets, as part of that deal, swapped 2023 first-round picks with Green Bay, going from 13 to 15. And that allowed Pittsburgh to more easily jump the Jets at 15, with the Patriots at 14, give up less draft capital, because I think the sense was there was the offensive line run, Paris Johnson at 6 to Arizona, Darnell Wright at 10 to Chicago, Peter Skronsky 11 to Tennessee. It just really left Broderick Jones, and it felt like the odds were pretty high. The Jets were going to take him. had he been there. So, as you said, and as you just mentioned, you always have to respect and appreciate when ownership wants to go up and make a move. And Pittsburgh, to their credit, has been aggressive about trading up the last couple of years. 2019 for Devin Bush. They tried to go up for Kenny Pickett last year. They had a deal with Houston on the table, and the Texans turned it down, and then going up this year. And so you have to appreciate that mindset. And you're right. Get that upside player, bet on traits, bet on tools. And the debate was always corner versus offensive tackle. And this cornerback class is so deep, tackle class, anything but. And so go up there, get your guy at a premium position that every team has to have a strong left tackle to succeed in the NFL.
Absolutely. And boy, the way things kind of had went up and at that point I was wondering, okay, what are not that it matters at that point, but Jets taking Will McDonald. I mean, I like Will McDonald. I know you do as well too, but I think we both kind of had him as a second round pick, early day 2 pick. There were quite a few selections in this first round that, you get Jahmyr Gibbs going to 12 overall.
And then Jack Campbell at 18. I love Jack Campbell, but 18.
Yeah. Jack Campbell at 18. Kalijah Kancey at 19 there. All this before, the first wide receiver didn't go off the board until 20th overall. And then you had a slight little run on him. And once again, you had Christian Gonzalez fall. You had an extra tackle and Anton Harrison go. Our boy Felix and Aduke Nzama to close out the round. Interesting first round, but when it comes to the Steelers specifically, this was a position we've talked about quite a bit in tackle, and they had to move up a couple of spots to get it, and they only give up a 4th round pick in the process, and they're still sitting on 2 second-round picks at this point. And obviously a lot of speculation has been for a while now what's going to happen with that 32 and Joey Porter not going in the first round. That's right. I'm not sure I would have bet on that happening, coming out of this night. But anyway, where shall we move? You get a good young player in Broderick Jones, a young player, a still developing player, a very inexperienced player, a very measurable Steelers player. What didn't he do that would have checked all the boxes with him? Was it?
He did not do the shuttles.
Okay.
Didn't do 3-cone short shuttle, but I think he hit every other box.
And you look at his tape, he would have hit that shuttle mark.
Yeah, for sure. He's a good athlete, great athlete.
All right, where do we go here?
Yeah, let's talk about Broderick Jones. He is the pick, 21 years old, basically 1 year left tackle experience at Georgia, started 4 games in 2021, and then was basically the full-time left tackle in 2022. There was some rotation happening there, and so occasionally he would sub out for Warren McClendon or somebody else. High athlete, raw right now, but long arms, 34 3/4, basketball player. His coaches say he could have played college basketball if he wanted to, but big 5-star recruit. A guy that's great in space, a guy that can get after it in the run game, has some nasty, has some finish to him. Watching some more tape last night, him refitting his hands, and it's going to work on his punch. I think the punch is going to be maybe the biggest thing Pat Meyer has to correct on him that and having more controlled pass sets, but a guy with the tools and traits to be that, real top end pass protecting left tackle that can run block as well. And so he hits all the notes that Pittsburgh, I think, was looking for.
At Georgia last season, 900. When we're talking about tackle, I didn't include any eligible, tackle eligible snaps in any of these. I'm just looking at left or right tackle snaps overall within this. Last season, 930 snaps at left tackle and left tackle only. 2021, 428 snaps at left tackle, 9 at right tackle in total. 2020, he only played 25 tackle snaps, all of them at right tackle there. He was asked during his conference call last night about experience playing right tackle. And even though we have a total here, let me take my shoes off, 25 and 9, carry to 1, that's 34 career right tackle starts or snaps at Georgia. He said he practiced at right tackle every day in practice. And that was because they carried a 3-man tackle rotation at the University of Georgia. Very proper guy. I like guys that very, very proper. I mean, he didn't just say at Georgia, at the University of Georgia.
You got to say the whole thing.
Right. He said that they all rotated around because they had a 3-man rotation there. So it not that that's where he's going to end up. I don't think. I think we both agree that the race is on for the starting left tackle gig at this point between him and Dan Moore. But the tape only says 34 snaps at right tackle during his University of Georgia career. But it sounds like he practiced a lot at the position. So should for whatever reason you need him to play right tackle, he should be able to do that for you. And I think what jumps out, and I already had watched the about 2.5 of the 3 games that we had already had all 22 tape on him on prior to the draft there. I went back and watched the Ohio State game last night, and then went back through some of that other tape. Just the athleticism on him, man.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about a kid that he gets off the ball quick. He can get out in space quick, get to the second level, and can do a lot of damage for you out on the edge. Should you run, some of them crack tosses, or should you run some of them screens, wide receiver screens? He can get out there and make an impact instantly. I like his ability. He's got great contact balance. I think his ability to change direction is very, very nice there. He's got good fundamentals when it comes to some of those kind of like log blocks where you turn back in real quick and have to square your guy off in that aspect there. The hand fighting, man. I can remember back watching the Dan Moore Jr. Tape when he was drafted, and I thought, okay, the hand usage, I see a little bit of it and all like that. You can really tell the hand and the arm usage on Broderick Jones on his all 22, and as his ability to reset those hands inside there. I think one of the drawbacks on him, and I talked about this about Joe Tippmann the other day after watching his tape as well there too. Sometimes those hands, man, I don't know if he's trying to, let the defender make his first move or whatnot. Those hands, he'll carry him a little bit low sometimes there. And he does have long enough arms that when he does finally fire off, he's going to win a lot of those battles there. But I think you want to see the carriage of the hands a little bit higher out of the snap here. There are some instances I see where he gets some late hands, and really his worst tape that I came across was against Missouri, against the guy that I talked about in Isaiah McGuire. That's a fun, I don't know if you watched that. That's a fun battle right there. And that, going back and watching that, I'm thinking, man, maybe Isaiah McGuire is going to end up with the Steelers here. That was really, to me, from the tape that I watched, that was his toughest battle there overall. He'll give up a little ground at time, I think, in some of his sets, a little bit deeper than you like, but he can jump set off the ball quickly. And a lot of his tapes really, really, really good. Just one of the things that stuck out to me was kind of the carriage of the hands of the late hands at times. And he can sometimes allow hands to get into his chest.
And that's going to be a really important thing under Pat Meyer, because he's all about first contact. I think every O-line coach is, but probably even more so under Coach Meyer. And so that's going to be a big thing for him. But when you have length with nearly 35-inch arms and his athleticism, I think he's going to be able to improve upon that. It's funny. I was listening a couple days ago before the draft started to Jones' combine interview, and he had mentioned McGuire as one of the toughest guys he had faced this past season. So good on you for mentioning that stuck with Broderick Jones. just going through my notes last night, writing some stuff down, watching additional tape on him, just a quick synopsis on some of the big picture good and bad that I have written down for Jones in his game. In terms of the good, athleticism, burst and snap off the line, ability to pull, work out in space, length. You see those basketball feet. He can seal and wash in the run game. Saw him against Keon White, Georgia Tech, just creating lanes all game long. Can refit his hands when he misses with his punch. He can finish in the run game. There's some nasty to him there. In terms of negative, snap timing, want to see him a bit quicker off the snap. Thought there was a little bit of delay there in some of his tape. I think his punch is initially a little too high. He's got to be able to have a more coordinated punch, lower punch, so he does not have to refit as often. Needs to be more controlled in his pass set. Sometimes will not stay square and be a little over aggressive. And
Ohio State, you see that on a snap or two against Ohio State.
Okay, for sure. And then just
open those hips a little bit too much.
Yeah, and then just being the one-year starter obviously comes with some of the rawness in his game. Now, he did start 15 games last year because Georgia's, winning the national title. So that gives him more experience in your typical, say, 11 season for a college team, 11-game season. So there's that. But still, 21 years old, still a lot to learn. But the talent is definitely all right there for him.
The talent that you see on tape, and then you look and you realize how little overall he's actually played. And we talked about, this is part of the reason too, that I thought might be a reason why he might slide like he did, because, not having, and, obviously Paris Johnson didn't have much more than him. Right. But, obviously nowhere near the experience of a guy like Darnell Wright, coming out of college there. But I think from what you can see in just his tape alone from last year, the ability versus knowing how little he has played at the college level gives you, and then looking at it at his flaws gives you the notion that he's still got a high ceiling on him. And and another thing I couldn't help but thinking last night, Alex, he's not even a grown man yet,
21.
He's going to, and I mean that from a body type.
Sure. He's
going to fill out a little bit. I kept thinking, going back, man, he's got a nice looking physique, a real kind of slimish, kind of Marquise Pouncey-ish from his early days. Remember how sleek Marquise was coming out? I kind of got that feel from that, man. This kid's going to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, fill out a little bit, and go from there. So some nice cut blocks in his tape, and the ability to get down quick, man, and cut those feet out. As you mentioned, how many times do you see a left tackle pulling to the right?
Yeah, now they did a skip pull, so it might be a little bit different under Meyer in terms of how they're going to ask the pull square versus skip. But just seeing the burst, yes, this guy moves like a tight end. And this guy's just incredible out in space.
He really is, and that gets you excited there. So, I don't know what else to add. I picked this up last night as well too, watching him on some twists and some stunts. I think he does a very good job of identifying that and passing that stuff off. And another thing that stuck out to me when watching the end zone copies was he does a good job of communicating with his left guard. You see a lot of him pre-snap talking to his left guard there. So that was good to see, just as an observation overall, and does a good job of banging and getting to the second level on some of those double teams. So they should feel comfortable getting some runs over to that left side behind him, without a doubt. From even where he is right now in his development, I know Mike Tomlin is going to say, well, put these guys in there, let them compete and all like that. There's no way that this guy's not your starting left tackle week one.
think he'd be the favorite, but he is 21. He is raw. And if he's not ready day one, you have the guy in Dan Moore that you trust. And so I think, if he has to sit for a bit because of how young that he is, this is not a 23-year-old, 3-year starter where you feel like this guy's got to be ready to play right away. So if he's not quite ready, then, it's to me not going to be the end of the world. But obviously, first round picks play much sooner than later. That's the expectation. And so, he'll be probably considered the favorite. But I think it'll be a really good battle in camp. I think Dan Moore's a really hard worker. I think his game has improved over time. I think Broderick Jones will challenge him, and they'll make each other better throughout that natural competition.
All right.
There's really been no competition at tackle the last several seasons. Let me give you a question here, and I don't know the answer to it, but Broderick Jones is the Pittsburgh Steelers' most athletic tackle since who?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I don't know the answer. Marvell Smith,
yeah, it has to be. I would think Marvell Smith, maybe. That's a great question. Yeah, I think it probably is Marvell Smith.
I mean, Villanueva obviously was a former receiver, tight end, but
yeah, he wasn't anywhere close.
Right. And Beacham,
that.
Good athlete, not at this level, not at this kind of freak show type level. So it's probably a Marvell Smith type, and so that alone does not make you a good tackle, but the prospect of what he can be is really exciting. And I think Pat Meyer is going to be a great coach for him. He's a teacher. He's not a guy who yells and screams and that kind of stuff. He's a quieter type guy. I think that'll probably resonate with Broderick Jones, who's kind of a more quieter, reserved type personality. Talked about that, heard about that throughout his Georgia career. And so that's a guy that in Meyer that will teach and be able to really, guide and build Jones up. And so I think Pat Meyer is going to be a really good coach for Broderick Jones.
Yeah. And once again, you see a lot of that, aggressive, quick snap out of Broderick Jones in some of his tape too, and his ability to really jump out,
Yeah. And also should mention Isaac Williams. We'll get to see Broderick Jones again. I had forgotten about the clip until you tweeted it out last night about that was Broderick Jones at the combine that threw Isaac Williams out of the club in that drill. So maybe that was the moment they said, hey, maybe we should really consider this Broderick Jones, gentlemen.
There's certain things that stick in your mind, right? And that's one of the things from the combine, that clip that you had shown there. Man, Alex, how old were you in 1996?
3 years old.
That's the last time the Steelers had taken a tackle in the first round of the NFL draft. So
and 3-year-old Alex said Jermaine Stevens, terrible pick, and he was vindicated by that. Yeah, let's hope Broderick Jones a bit better than Jermaine Stevens. And Matthew Marksy had written, we made this point several times. First time since 2012, Pittsburgh had used the first or second round pick on an offensive or defensive lineman, and so that drought finally, mercifully, ends.
Blues Clues is alive and well, Alex.
Yes, sir. So every first round pick since at least 2010 has had Tomlin and or the GM at the pro day. Now Jones came in for a visit, and that is, I think, generally atypical of first round picks, but it makes sense because we don't believe Pat Meyer was at that pro day. Right. So for Jones to come in the facility, get to talk to Meyer, be around the whole organization is a benefit. And Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan confirming last night there was a pro day dinner with Broderick Jones and several of his Bulldogs teammates. And so, as you said, the Blues Clues alive and well in the Omar Khan era.
Yes, indeed. And it was interesting for them to peel back the curtain a little bit last night and Tomlin tell that quick story about how, he was down at the University of Georgia a year ago and, asked those guys, they didn't know who Broderick Jones was at that time. And, obviously you had the whole and there's a lot of reasons for that. And obviously with him being a young player and all like that, but he's asking, the guys that he had went down to see at Georgia last year, who is a guy that I'll be back to see next year. And kind of universally, the answer was Broderick Jones. So that's kind of fun to hear those stories like that. And, Omar talked about how from the combine to the pro, they spent a lot of time with him, and obviously he checked all the boxes along the way there, and I can remember going back to the combine right there. He was a good teammate. He really talked and defended his teammate Jalen Carter at the time, because at the time that's when all that news had started breaking there. I really thought he spoke really well there. I think he handles himself very, very well for such a young kid there. So I don't know what's not to like about the pick overall. I mean, this was a huge, huge need for the Steelers there, and they moved up and got him.
I think he could have survived and been, okay with more and a core for at left tackle this year, but the chance to get that, potential stud left tackle, too tempting. Does not come along too often for a team like Pittsburgh that is most often picking in the teens and 20s. And so to get that left tackle, have that chance to move up a couple of spots, not give up much to do so is hard to pass upon. I'm going to sound like the old man on the lawn yelling at the kids here for a second, Dave. But, one small thing I like about Broderick Jones, I've done research on him both last night and then earlier this week as I was kind of really narrowing down the options for Pittsburgh in the first round. The loyalty that Broderick Jones has shown. You don't see that a lot in football these days. And I'm not mad at any player that wants to leave and transfer, or, decommit and stuff like that. They should have, they have that right to do so. But he went to Lithonia High School. It's a very small high school in Georgia, and he was a big time recruit. And the story is when he was in high school, there was every, other high school, the bigger high schools trying to pull him away, trying to get him to go to their football team because he was, a 5-star recruit, and he stayed in that small school and he didn't transfer. And then he committed to Georgia 2 years out. So he was committing to Georgia, I think his junior season. And, a lot of guys decommit and change, and he never did. And he had all these schools trying to wrestle him away. And there was a brief time where he reopened his commitment, but, basically at the end of the day said, I'm committed to Georgia. I'm a Georgia boy, and I'm going to stay with the team I initially committed to. And so I know those are small things. And it doesn't make you a franchise left tackle, but for a guy to have that kind of loyalty and commitment for a young man like that, I think is pretty impressive.
I would agree. And, they was asked, I think they were asked something along the lines of, you've spoken about his upside. What intangibles or leadership qualities did you find in Broderick? And Mike Tomlin said, we are not necessarily looking for leadership qualities in a third-year junior. We believe that's potentially in his future, but those guys, man, we like them for their physical pedigree, the things that they can do, and the overall trajectory of their game and their lives. So he's an exciting guy. The leadership component of it will develop, I'm sure, with time. Perfect answer by Mike Tomlin there, I think.
Yeah, he's 21 on a championship team. He's not going to be necessarily that leader right away. The book on him is he's a pretty quiet, reserved guy. Some more on his background. He likes car shows. He likes snakes. He's got a pet snake. At least he did at some point, I think, in college. He probably still does now. He likes motorbikes. He actually got in a motorbike accident in 2020, hurt his leg. He gave up motorbikes, he said, because it was just too risky and all that kind of stuff. So I think you don't have to worry about him getting hurt again. But those are just some of the things in the background. I just like the background overall, kind of diving into the person, as far as I can tell from man on chair, 1,000 miles away from Georgia, right. Can be. But I think the character, squeaky clean. Pittsburgh, again, first-round picks, whether it's Colbert and now Khan, their first-round guys have always been really high-character individuals.
All right. There we go. Got a tackle in the building now. And anything else to add on him? Jump out on tape or anything?
No, we'll keep watching, but I think I went through the things that jumped out to me going through the tape, before the pick, and then certainly a bit more after the pick. So on to
obviously not surprised they moved up. Obviously not surprised with the pick, right, of who it was.
Yeah, I had said for a while I thought if Pittsburgh was going to make a move, it'd be to go up and not down. And I think I wrote in early April, if Pittsburgh was going to trade up, it'd be for two names. It'd be Paris Johnson Jr. or Broderick Jones. And it ends up being, of course, Broderick Jones. So like the move there from Omar Khan.
All
right, day two. And it'll start off pretty quickly here, Dave, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time with pick number 32, Pittsburgh. Right now, they're on the clock. Now, will they stay there? Will they stay at 32? They got some great options. The board, I thought, broke really well for Pittsburgh to be in the spot with the two quarterbacks being there. Will Levis, which was a big surprise to me, and Hendon Hooker. So you got quarterbacks for teams to go up and get. Of course, you have Joey Porter Jr., Brian Branch, other defensive back options on the table if you want to stay at 32. So this one could go either way. I'd be happy with it. What are you thinking here off the top of pick 32, Dave?
Real quick for the people, we have another. Has it hit yet? We've got another film room coming up on Broderick Jones this morning from Jonathan Heitritter, right?
Yeah, I think it just went up, but
okay,
it's up right now when people listen to this.
Okay, great. So if you're looking for some more film, obviously we had the draft profile on him that was already done, and we'll have, if you're looking for more stuff to read and some tape to watch on him, we have that up on SteelersDepot.com right now.
Yeah, it's Jonathan Heitritter with a great article and breakdown of what the Pittsburgh's getting with Broderick Jones.
All right, as far as options here, it's wide open, and there's already that report several hours ago that the Steelers' phone's already been ringing, and you can bet it probably is, and especially with a couple of the quarterback options out there, it will be interesting to see how this plays out. How much, I think it comes down to the question of is how far do you need to move back? Do you value what you might, how much do you value a guy like Joey Porter Jr. at this point? It is the haul of what you can get, in return to move down worth potentially moving up or moving down and missing a player such as Joey Porter Jr. This team right now traded away that fourth round pick, right? So you would think they're going to recoup that at some point plus a little bit more. I would try to get as much as I could if I dealt this thing, obviously, and I would try not to go down too terribly far in the process here. So I don't know which way they're going to go overall here. I hope. I'm not as big on Joey Porter Jr. as probably a lot of people out there listening to this. I don't think he's an awful player, but I will say this, and I've said this throughout the process here. This team has holes, right? They need picks to fill those holes, and if you can get a couple of earlier picks to do that, I mean, if you told me right now I can move down a couple spots and pick up a couple of, fourth, fifth round pick, whatever it is, and I can still get a guy like Tyreek Stevenson and miss out on Joey Porter Jr., I think I'd trade down. But it is wide open for them to go I'm not going to hate them if Joey Porter Jr., if they stay put and they take Joey Porter Jr. there. I just think that they need to really, and they really need to listen to these offers here for that 32nd pick. And I'm hoping they deal out of it personally.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a fence rider. I think I'd be happy regardless of what Pittsburgh does. I think there are real, as you're kind of alluding to, incentives to trade down. And a trade down does not necessarily have to mean going down 15 spots. It may only be 4 or 5 spots. And to your point, because this cornerback class is so deep, you're going to get a good corner at say 38, or let's just throw out a name there with the Raiders at 38. You're going to get Brents or Stevenson. And heck, who knows? Maybe Joey Porter Jr. will still be there. We didn't think he'd fall out of round 1. So who the heck knows at this point? This draft, the whole back half of the first round was kind of off the charts in terms of, trying to predict how things would go.
And they brought a lot of those mid-round kind of corners in too, man.
Yeah, all of them. Rush, Stevenson, Brents. Brian Branch was not brought in, but they probably pretty familiar with him being at that Alabama Pro Day. Now he's more safety slot, but you get the point. So there's going to be a corner there if they want to move down. So that's kind of my thought, because here's the thing: they pick at pick 80 in the 3rd round. They don't pick again until 241 in the 7th round. There is the one thing I'm certain of, there is no chance that Omar Khan is going to sit there from pick 80 to pick 241 and do nothing. So at some point, they're going to have to trade down. And this is going to be your best opportunity to do so, because you have teams interested in going up and getting one of these quarterbacks in Will Levis or Hendon Hooker. If you pick at 32, you're going to try to probably trade down at 49 or 80, but you have no idea if there's going to be teams willing to come up, what their offers will be. You know you're going to be in prime real estate position to move down. So I've kind of gone back and forth on this. My guess is ultimately this team will trade down. How far, all the terms, I don't know. I think they do move down because at some point I know they're going to move down, and this is as logical a spot as any, and you can probably play some leverage here to get a pretty good deal out of it if you got a couple teams trying to come up for a quarterback. So not mad either way. If you want to sit there and take Porter at 32, if you told me before the draft that you get Broderick Jones and Joey Porter Jr., I'm a pretty happy man. But I think just given that Grand Canyon size gap between the third and seventh round, trading down here makes a ton of sense.
And you obviously can make a move later too. On top of it, if you needed to, if things go well in day two, and you move down, who knows? I don't think we've seen the end. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we've seen the end of Steelers deals in this draft.
No, again, that's the one thing I'm certain of. Again, there's no way. I thought them going, fourth round 120 to 241 was going to be too long of a gap. Now you make that 80 to 241. They're going to do something. I mean, they would just, I think, be irresponsible to not, bridge that gap to some degree, pick up a pick and probably more than one. So we'll see. The report is, as you mentioned, Tom Pelissero saying Pittsburgh already receiving calls. The Eagles, Chiefs confirming that they had received calls at 30 and 31, teams trying to come up. Now, obviously, there's the fifth-year option at play, which makes the first round more attractive, but still, quarterbacks are quarterbacks. Teams want to get them. And I imagine whether that's, Seattle, the Raiders, the Titans, who knows, somebody's going to want to come up and get a Levis or a Hooker and get that quarterback at the top of day two.
Right, even without the fifth-year option being involved now.
Right, because it's still a quarterback, and teams want to need a quarterback, and once Levis and Hooker are gone, the quarterback fall off is dramatic, and so there's still going to be an urgency to go get him, even if the fifth-year option is no longer in play.
All right, will they sell the pick off?
Again, I've gone back and forth. Short answer, yes. I think they trade it.
I agree. I think they do as well too. And and once again, I'm not going to hate it if Joey Porter is a selection there, but this is a deep cornerback class, and who knows, maybe you can slide back a couple spots and still get Joey Porter.
Sure.
I don't know there, but it's wide open at this point, and it's exactly what Mike Tomlin said or what they said the other day in the pre-draft press conference that it might be, is that very exciting to be in that position, that they're going to have a lot fielding a lot of calls there overnight there, and that's where we are on this.
Yeah, the good news is they're in a really good place at 32 right now, with options on the board to stay, options in all likelihood to trade down, and so there are no bad choices here. It's just, what do you want to do? What offers will you get? How much do you like Porter? That's going to be the conversation, but it is a very strong position to be in.
And you've already rode overnight and had it up first thing this morning, and day two options here for the Steelers. I mean, if you're looking at a wide receiver, obviously a guy like Jonathan Mingo, who we've talked about a little bit through this process, Darnell Washington, still on the board at this point. You got a couple of interior offensive line candidates. John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota, obviously a center. And then Cody Mock, whatever you want to do with him, guard, center out of North Dakota State. Defensive line, several guys that we've talked about. Keanu Benton, Jervon Dexter, who Dexter obviously didn't, said he was coming in for a visit, didn't. But as an obvious fit there. You even have Keon White listed here out of Georgia Tech. The edge guys, the guy that I had in my mock draft, I think in Tuli Puduloto out of USC. I'm gonna struggle on him like Kwame Okorafor.
What is it? Tui Pelotu.
People are gonna have to learn phonics with Dave. You know what we forgot to mention here, Alex? DJ Turner, specifically, and you have him in your article here out of Michigan, but because of what we saw, not that it's huge news information. We already knew that the Steelers went to the Michigan Pro Day. obviously during the offseason there. But we had a new name to add who tagged along with them on that trip to Michigan.
We do, and it was Grady Brown at that Michigan Pro Day. We knew that Tomlin and Khan had been there, but we didn't know if anybody else was there. I think that Michigan Pro Day was pretty closed off to the media. There wasn't a lot of reports coming out after the fact, and so in the
we knew Alfredo was there.
Yeah, we knew Alfredo Roberts was there, but in the episode of The Standard, the Pittsburgh Steelers ongoing series, they had a camera crew go to the Michigan Pro Day, and so we saw that Grady Brown was there, and ostensibly to see DJ Turner, who we not heard much of in the pre-draft process. So he's a guy that does not have the size and physicality and press man ability of a Joey Porter Jr. or Julius Brents, but he's got great speed, can play inside out, and I think he's a good player overall. So that's one name to consider there, because there's a really strong day two correlation between positional coaches and Pittsburgh's picks. Last year, Pickens and Leal, you had Frisman Jackson, Carl Dunbar at their pro days. 2021, Pat Fryermuth, Alfredo Roberts was there, Kendrick Green, Adrian Clem was there. And so there's a really recent strong correlation between the day two guys and having positional coaches attend those pro day workouts.
Okay. You also listed Jair Brown, Penn State safety. Obviously Brian Branch. A lot of people in my timeline holler for Brian Branch. I don't know about yours there, but and then you didn't even mention guys in here. I having to get this up last night. Obviously guys like Brents and some of these other guys that they brought in.
Brents is on the list.
Julius Brents. It?
Yeah, Brents is on there. Yep.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it here. Oh, yeah, I see him. Yeah. And obviously Tyreek Stevenson. We mentioned Joey Porter Jr. in this. So, I mean, I feel pretty good that probably at least one of these guys on this list of day two, possibilities for the Steelers might end up being the guy.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy day two right now with 3 picks, 32, 49, and 80. And a trade down could pick up, something else potentially. If you trade 32, you probably get maybe a 3rd round pick, later 3rd and a 4th or something like that, hopefully out of the deal, depending on, how far you're going down. So there's going to be options there. You got to think, cornerback early, probably with that first pick, wherever it is, 32 or in a trade down scenario. You got to think corner is going to be the next place they go, A, given the depth of the class, and B, given the need that Pittsburgh has. And so that's obviously where the Porter discussion comes from. But you're thinking corner, you're thinking maybe safety, D-line, interior offensive line. That's kind of where my head is at in terms of the directions Pittsburgh's most likely to go. And then Darnell Washington is your wild card. Could he be the guy if Pittsburgh, is in love with his tape and his game?
How many picks will they make Friday night?
I got 3 right now. I think they will trade down.
Think they make 4?
4, yeah. I'll go ahead and say 4.
Boy, how exciting would that be to talk about 4 more new Steelers after 2 days of the draft?
It's gonna be busy. The depot hamster is gonna be running on that wheel, pretty hot. But yeah, it's gonna be a really fun day.
Okay, what else do we need to hit? Do we need to get Jonathan Heitritter some frequent flyer miles next year or whatnot, and actually send him to some of these bigger pro days?
Maybe it's a thought, I guess. Yeah. I mean, not opposed to it.
Because I hate missing out on Nathan. I know the only reason we were watching that standard video the other night was to see if they'd give us any surprise shots on the draft board or anything like that, which they made sure obviously not to. But I mean, we also learned where another place that Bruner went, and who else was new information in there?
Yeah, I felt like we had figured out most of the stuff that was shown in the video beforehand, but Dan Rooney Jr. being at Georgia and at UNC Charlotte for Grant Dubose, the big slot receiver over there.
Okay.
So, we'll see. But day 2 right now, yeah, we're looking the names that I mentioned and the positional coaches. Keanu Benton. Could you get both of these right here with Broderick Jones and Keanu Benton from your mock?
I'm not gonna press my luck, but
you don't want to hit the whammy.
Yeah, no whammy, no more.
Stop.
But would it surprise you?
No, I mean, I've had this peg for a long time now, and I don't know if that's going to be at 32, maybe at pick 49, maybe in a trade down scenario. Again, I think corner is going to be where they go with their first pick in the second round, wherever that ends up being. But if he's there at 49, Keanu Benton, come on down.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other things to recap here? And you want to talk quickly about what happened in that first round?
Yeah, just give me your first round reaction overall. Obviously, Bryce Young at 1, really no surprise there. The draft to me kind of started at 2. CJ Stroud goes 2 to Houston. The Texans go up from 12 to 3 to get Will Anderson. So pretty exciting start to the draft.
Yeah, it was. And when for the Texans, you got to take your hat off and hand it to the Texans, right? They had a plan. They executed it. 2 of the first 3 picks in the draft, real what could end up being franchise difference makers in CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. I mean, the Colts, a lot of people obviously had them pegged to take a cornerback. What do you think of the Christian Gonzalez fall?
Yeah, that's interesting. He was, how many corners went off the board before him? Witherspoon. Is there another corner that went off the board
Forbes, right?
Forbes, yeah, Forbes to Washington at 16 was surprising and interesting to me. I'm a big fan of Christian Gonzalez, and I think the Patriots got a great player to trade back with Pittsburgh and still get him. So I think it's going to be, a headache for receivers for a long time.
Let's see, Tyree Wilson to the Raiders.
You got that one right in your first round mock.
Yeah. Bijan Robinson to the Falcons. I think here's what I had kind of circled ahead of this that I put out on Twitter as the most intriguing things to watch in the first round. It was CJ Stroud and of course that C2 stuff, which ended up being nothing, as far as the board, as far as him coming off the board. Mm-hmm. Jalen Carter and the character issue, which he still ended up going in the top 10. Bijan Robinson, how early, and I had in parentheses, how early for him. Lucas Van Ness and the fit, I had fit in parentheses with him, kind of wondering what was going to happen there. And I think the other name that I had on that list of, intriguing things to watch, Peter Skoronski, and obviously because of the arm length, right? And he ended up being, I guess, I didn't listen to I haven't read any reports on since he went to Tennessee. Are they viewing him as a left tackle? I would imagine that's where he's going to get his initial breakout there. Have you heard anything of how they view him?
I didn't listen. I can try to look it up here really quickly. I mean, again, he was probably conventionally viewed as a left guard, but in Tennessee, I don't know how they view him as a tackle.
Yeah. I obviously didn't pay attention to that last night. Another thing that kind of played into me ultimately mocking Broderick Jones to the Steelers there, as part of him maybe sliding through some of the cracks there, was the fact that I wondered if maybe a team might value Darnell Wright in that experience of his early in the middle of this round here overall, and that ended up being the case. Now, did I think it was going to be 10 overall? That it was a little bit surprising, but in my first round mock that I released several hours before the start of the festivities Thursday night, I had Darnell off the board by the time he got to 17. Brian Baldinger really likes Darnell Wright, and I started thinking, man, is there a lot of smoke? Is there going to be fire here when it comes to this stuff? And kudos to Baldinger, because he was kind of on the Darnell Wright bandwagon of he probably should go earlier than where a lot of people have, and that ended up being what happened there.
Yeah, 100%. And Ryan Poles, a former offensive lineman, gets a really good right tackle in Darnell Wright. It looks like Grable had said Peter Skoronski's an offensive lineman. The team will sort out whether he plays guard or tackle. So a non-answer there from Mike Grable. Yeah, what else happened in the I think the back end of that one?
Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12. He is a talented back. and he can give you some explosive plays. That's another thing that we talked about, right? If you're going to get a running back, you got to take him in the first round. He better be able to deliver some explosive plays. But I never saw him being a first round draft pick there. We talked about Will McDonald early in this show about him going to the Jets overall. I think it's a fine player there. I didn't see that happening in the first round. Jack Campbell in the first round to the Lions. Kalijah Cansey in the first round to the Buccaneers. I think the testament of how long it took for the wide receivers to come off the board tells you a little bit about the top end of this class, right?
Yeah, not a strong top end, but it was a big run. It was Smith and Jigba at 20, Quentin Johnston 21, Zay Flowers 22, Jordan Addison 23. So 4 receivers in a row. And so I think that speaks to that class having some depth and some decent talent, not top end, not top 5, top 10 type guys, but some good mid to later round first round picks.
Look, this is an exact science. It's a sort through and get through as much tape as you can and read what you can, try to form your opinion of who's going to go where and that kind of thing there. But what's one kind of maybe lesson learned when it just comes to the first round the other night?
I mean, it's one we say every year, but nobody knows anything. And we
Right.
can mock draft and you hear the reports and none of it, most of it does not come true by the time, draft day rolls around. And some of that is trades and the unpredictability of what teams, what moves they make and moves they don't make and things like that. But no one knows anything for sure. And my takeaway is we got to get Roger Goodell to stop letting the Eagles get all these great Georgia players. They get Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Are you kidding me? Their entire defense is just the Georgia defense that has been called up like a minor league team to Philadelphia. It's pretty absurd.
Yeah, if Jalen Carter keeps his nose clean, they're going to have a hell of a front, right?
How about the AFC North? The 2 picks from non-Steelers teams there in the North, and Zay Flowers to Baltimore, a solid pick there, and Miles Murphy to Cincinnati. I thought he was a Baltimore guy, ends up being a Cincinnati guy.
You surprised they took an edge rusher there? I was.
A little bit, but man, those even fronts, they want that really good rotation. I mean, you see what the Eagles did. I mean, any good 4-3 defense pass rush has so many dudes you can bring in that'll be fresh. And so you have Hendrickson and Hubbard and Murphy and some other rotational guys in that mix. And so I think if you're that team that's not going to blitz much, you better have that really strong, consistent front 4, and Miles Murphy can provide that.
Okay. Before we get out of here, I guess we should talk about Lamar Jackson getting his deal.
Yeah, 5 years. What's the terms on that? $260 million, just above the Jalen Hurts contract, not fully guaranteed. I believe 185 is the guarantee, and obviously we have to get specific language and information on what exactly is guaranteed and all that kind of stuff, but sounds very similar to the Jalen Hurts deal, just a little rung above it.
Yep. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some of those rolling option bonuses in there to help keep his first year cap hit down. Look, we've said this for quite a while when it comes to him. Yeah, it was one of those situations that you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Right? Mm-hmm. As far as getting a deal done with him. And, I put it out on Twitter right after, they placed a franchise tag on him that it was in my gut that when the smoke clears, they'd finally get a deal done with him, and they did. I think it took the Jalen Hurts deal getting done for Lamar to see that he ain't going to get probably not going to get a fully guaranteed deal out of this. I think once he saw that part of the process there, I think it just came down to, okay, well, just let me beat him and kind of keep some of the same, structure and all involved in that. And let's move forward with this thing. So they got the deal done with him. Steeler fans are probably going to say, thank goodness, good on them. That's just going to put the Ravens in salary cap hell and yada, yada. Look, they they'll be able to maneuver around this from a restructure standpoint from the first couple of years through this thing. So it's not going to be like, and look, they're freeing up a lot of cap space this offseason now by getting that done. So if you're going to look at the negatives on the back end, look at the positives on the front end of this. And that's what we always try to do, right? We try to look at these things as objectively as possible here. They're gonna drive his cap charge down now. Whatever they missed out early on if there's any downside to this through this process, is that they probably were forced to sit on their hands quite a bit through free agency. But now there's talk about, possible, we'll see what happens with any trades now, right? With maybe them acquiring somebody else or whatnot and all. But they're going to be able to maneuver through this with him through at least 2025. Their biggest enemy right now when it comes to this contract and Lamar Jackson is Lamar's health, right?
Sure. Has not finished the last 2 years because of injury, and the Ravens season has tanked in both years because of it. So that's the risk that you take, but I think that's a better risk to assume than letting him leave and walk and try to replace Lamar Jackson. So it was a good day for your predictions, Dave, because you had said all along you were pretty confident Baltimore was going to retain Lamar. I agreed with you, and now they did. Now he'll remain a Raven.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add before we jump on a couple quick emails here?
Just got to say about the little crazy news right before the draft started, the Cardinals having to give up draft picks or agreeing to draft picks with Philadelphia because of a self-reported tampering. So the Cardinals franchise, it's a heck of a way to start for that new GM, Monty Austinfort over there.
That was strange. Now, my question, because, so in other words, teams can work it out on their own for breaking the rules?
Apparently, I didn't know that was a thing. I thought the league handled all that kind of stuff, but apparently teams can just, Wild West duel it and figure it out. And NFL just says, all right, that's fine.
Should that be allowed? I mean, and I haven't had a chance to read deep into this. I know the surface information like you do there. I was surprised at the way it was worded and the press releases by the team and all like that. It doesn't make sense. You guys just work it out. And in other words, I think there should still be a penalty in here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a new situation to me. So to my knowledge, that the NFL got involved with those things, but I guess because the Cardinals self-reported, there was more leniency to let them kind of self-police. And if the Eagles are happy with it, then that's, I guess, all that really matters.
All right, we should be expecting the Mike Tomlin phone call video here probably any time now. And right. We have a press conference a little bit later today with Broderick Jones and him getting a jersey and all. So it's going to be an exciting day. Let's get to some emails.
What do you expect on the Tomlin call? Is it, hey, Broderick, you healthy?
Hey, big guy.
A Pittsburgh Steeler. Yeah, hey, big guy. Yeah. Hey, big guy.
Yeah. All right. Seth Bergstein writes in, hey, David, Alex, first of all, nobody does off-season and pre-draft better than y'all. Thank you guys and your whole crew. Look, shout out to the Depot guys last night as well, too. Man, you want to talk about a team that can knock some stuff out. They did it. You guys just don't see what's behind the scenes that goes on here. And, the whole crew, obviously, through this pre-draft process and the 200 and how many total draft profiles? 270? 272, just amazing. And Alex helps keeps this machine running on a day-to-day basis, and just incredible work these guys do. Seth writes in, here on Friday morning, I'm feeling very optimistic for the first time in a long time between the Jones pick and plenty of great names left on the board along with trade down options. I can see this team becoming a dominant force with the ground game, which should give Pickett every opportunity to grow. I love where we're headed. I see an identity forming. Do you agree or think I'm getting a little ahead of myself? Look, I mean, the first day of the draft and you move up and you get a starting left tackle and a young one that's got some upside to him. Why wouldn't you be excited right now? And then looking at the possibilities that might happen, we just talked about, you could come away with 4 guys in these next 2 rounds. So, hey, I mean, I would caution to say, make sure people aren't too far out ahead of their skis, but I mean, that's why you watch this stuff, right? To get a little excited. So I think it's okay to have a little bit of optimism coming out of round one right now, and the prospects that this team is facing in day two of the draft. So optimism away.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It should be an exciting time. It's a good player. It's a good move. You got a bunch of options on day two, so this team will get even better after today. However, that ends up looking. Doing a note here, Jeremy Fowler just tweeting a moment ago. I'll read the tweet here verbatim. Quote, 4 teams have engaged the Steelers with legitimate interest in trading for the number 32 pick per sources. Pittsburgh would need an aggressive offer to move off the pick given the talent available to it should the Steelers stay put, end quote. And so 4 teams calling about that 32 pick, and that's good because that'll drive that price tag up. More competition for those quarterbacks. Hopefully the better offer Pittsburgh could get.
Michael Rocket writes in, dear men of the terrible podcast, great work and coverage this year for the draft. Thanks to the whole team for the effort. I'm sure you've covered all the common questions about Broderick Jones. So here's an offbeat question for you. I'm just wondering when Broderick sneaks out and grabs a touchdown pass, your thoughts on the odds of this super athletic beast catching a touchdown pass in his rookie year? Rookie year, maybe not. But let me tell you, that guy can get off the line. He has, if he's so asked or inclined to do as such, he could do it there. But I don't want to put more on his plate. I want him to win that left tackle job outright first and foremost here before we start talking about him sneaking out on some tackle eligible and grabbing some touchdown passes. But yeah, I see where you're going, Michael. Just the overall takeaway, the fact that he's got some athleticism to get out there in space.
Broderick Jones reporting eligible. I was going to say his number, but I don't know what number he's going to wear. It's not going to be 59. That's spoken for by Jack Ham. So we'll just say number 60 something reporting eligible. Broderick Jones, one of those tackle eligible plays. Pittsburgh runs some of those unbalanced looks. Maybe you do something kind of funky with that one of these times in his career.
Nick Shuley evidently is upset about the Steelers' first-round pick. Nick writes in, Alex and Dave, when your best corner is 33 years old, Patrick Peterson, how on earth can this team pass on Christian Gonzalez? I mean, Nick, can we let the rest of the draft play out here, buddy? Look, there are a lot of people in my timeline. You look, Alex is a huge Christian Gonzalez fan,
Yeah, I think he was a better player than Broderick Jones, to be honest with you.
Right. Alex was probably hoping for him to fall there. I get it here, but let's not paint this entire thing off of this in its entirety. They have more cornerbacks under contract than they did true tackles. I'll tell you that. So yeah, I mean, I know, you got some guys in Levi Wallace and Akella Witherspoon and Arthur Millette and obviously Patrick Peterson and James Pierre and all like that. And, really only Peterson's the guy that could potentially stick. I'll promise you this, Nick. The Steelers are going to address cornerback on day 2 of the NFL draft. There you go. I pointed to the fence.
Calling your shot, sticking your neck out, Dave. I think the first point you made is the point to note. Let's see how day 2 plays out. This draft is not over. It's far from it. It's been one pick. And as we mentioned, because this cornerback class is so deep, it's so talented. Again, Joey Porter Jr. being there at 32, did not expect that to occur. And so they're going to get a good cornerback regardless of who it is. And so, again, I love Christian Gonzalez. I'd have been happy if he was the pick, but I totally understand and can get on board with this team going tackle, given the need there to get better and hopefully a whole lot better. And then just knowing that, as you said, if you did not get a tackle in the first round, you weren't going to get a tackle at all because there just was nobody left and guys Pittsburgh had shown interest in, with Harrison coming off the board later in the first round. So positional value, understanding the depth of the class, all important components of deciding on who to make the pick.
That's the thing, Nick. this was the end of the tackle, the top tier tackles right here. If you don't go up and get a guy like Broderick Jones right here, then then you're into Anton Harrison. You're into
and Harrison's gone. Right, I mean, he's off the board at 26.
Right, and then good point. So you don't get him. So then you're in. I think you're in Matthew Bergeron territory at that point, and there's some people wondering if he might need to move inside or not. So you're in that territory right there. You're probably not going to. You might. I don't know what you do at tackle.
I think you punt at tackle. You get to get somebody later, but your starters are Dan Moore Jr. and Shaquille McCoy and that's locked in.
Right. So kind of understand where the positional value is here overall, whereas this cornerback class is a lot deeper than the tackle class is overall. A lot of different shapes and sizes as well within that. Let's see. I think we got them all knocked out there, Alex, and we need to start getting ready for the first round draft pick press conference later today. Anything else you'd like to add? What an exciting first night.
Yeah, great first night. Thank you so much to the Depot team. I felt really prepared for this pick, and that's a product of the work put in over the last couple of months by the entire crew. So appreciate that. Appreciate the readers, the listeners. Terrific turnout. I mean, it's like 2 a.m. last night, and the site's still humming. I mean, people are just still flocking to the site. So it's a really fun weekend, and day 2 will be, I think, just as exciting.
I think so as well, too. And get by SteelersDepot.com. We'll have a discussion thread going for day 2. And I think even that hit, I don't know, what was it, 1,500 comments last night, something like that. I think at one point there were like almost damn near 3,000 people on the site at one time last night there. Appreciate the support. Appreciate everybody listening. Hope you follow us on Twitter. Follow me at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right now. Navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar and follow the directions that way. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you on the site. And Alex and I'll be back with another version, I guess, bright and early Saturday morning, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll be here to cover what's going to be a very busy and very eventful. Like day 1 is fun, but it's one pick. It's one guy. Day 2, day 3, it starts coming in hot and heavy. It's going to be a lot of fun.
As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.